Everybody loves Libra. That's the problem. Not loves like you're important to me. Loves like you never make me uncomfortable. Loves like you always know what to say. Loves like I can't remember the last time you actually disagreed with me. That's not love. That's usefulness. And Libra built an entire identity around being useful enough that nobody ever leaves. I've spent 16 years watching this pattern hollow people out. The client who said yes to a marriage proposal they weren't sure about because saying no felt cruel. The friend who smiled through a dinner where someone insulted their dreams because it wasn't worth the conflict. The person who changed their opinion mid-sentence, not because they were convinced, but because they felt the room shift. And here's what nobody says out loud. It's not kindness. It's not diplomacy. It's not balance. It's a survival strategy dressed in good manners. This video breaks down why Libra will destroy themselves quietly rather than let you be briefly uncomfortable. And if you've ever watched someone you love disappear inside their own agreeableness, or if you are that person, you need to hear this. Because what looks like harmony, it's a hostage situation. And Libra is both the hostage and the one holding the gun. Here's what nobody wants to admit about Libra, the thing that makes this sign genuinely painful to understand. They don't keep the peace because they value harmony. They keep the peace because conflict means someone might decide they're too much, too opinionated, too difficult, too real, and to real means replaceable. So they make themselves frictionless, easy, the person who fits. The one who never pushes back too hard, never wants to loudly, never takes up space in a way that might inconvenience anyone. And they do it so naturally, so consistently, that people stop noticing. Stop questioning. Start assuming this is just who Libra is. Agreeable, diplomatic, balanced. But watch what happens when you actually press them. When you say no, what do you actually think? When you refuse to fill the silence they leave after every half-formed opinion. When you make them choose, not between the restaurant options, but between two truths. They panic, not visibly, not dramatically. They smile, they deflect. They find a way to make both options sound equally valid, equally interesting, equally fine. Because fine is safe. Fine doesn't create enemies. Fine means everyone leaves the table still liking them. And being liked is the only currency Libra trusts. Stop. Just stop for a second. Because that's the layer most people never get past. The mask. The diplomat. The one who just wants everyone to be happy. But the real question, the one this video is actually about, is what happens underneath that. What's running the whole operation? Here's the fear. The one Libra doesn't say it to, in the morning even to themselves. They're terrified they're not worth choosing when they're not being useful. Not terrified of conflict. Not terrified of confrontation. Terrified of the moment after the conflict. When the dust settles and they're standing there without the peacekeeping role and someone looks at them and thinks, is that it? Is that all you are? Because Libra learned something early. Something brutal. The people who got chosen, really chosen, kept, fought for, they were the ones who made everything easier. Who smoothed edges. Who made other people feel seen and comfortable and right. The ones who pushed back. Who had opinions that inconvenienced people. Who took up space they got left. So Libra made a calculation, a child's calculation, made once and never revisited. If I'm easy, I'm safe. If I'm easy, I'm kept. If I never become a problem, I never become something someone has to decide about. And they've been living inside that calculation ever since, adjusting, accommodating, making themselves smaller and smoother and more palatable. Not because they don't have edges. They do, sharp ones, but they file them down every day, in every room with every person, because the edges are what get you left. And now, here's the layer that makes everything worse. The part that's not fear. The part that's choice. They know what they're doing, not completely, not consciously, but somewhere beneath all the genuine warmth and real desire to make people feel good, Libra knows the performance is happening, knows they're modulating, calibrating, knows that the opinion they just expressed isn't quite the one they actually have, and they keep doing it. Not because they can't stop, because the performance works. Here's what that actually means. When Libra smooths the conflict, when they make themselves agreeable, when they absorb someone's discomfort and transform it into ease, people respond. People relax. People say things like, "You're so easy to talk to and I always feel better after seeing you," and you just get it. And that feeling, being needed, being the reason the room feels okay, being the person everyone wants around, that's not just pleasant. That's the only proof they have that they belong there, so they can't stop. Because stopping means sitting with the question they've never been able to answer. If I stop making everything easier, if I bring my real opinions, my actual needs, my genuine edges, will anyone still want me in the room? They don't know, haven't tested it, won't test it. Because if the answer is no, if the real them clears the room, then the whole architecture collapses. The identity, the relationships, the story they've been telling themselves about being loved. If they stop managing, they have to find out who they are when nobody's watching. And they're not sure that person is worth the trouble, so they keep performing, keep filing down the edges, keep choosing the version of themselves that fits instead of the one that's true. Not because they're fake. Because being real feels like a gamble they've never been brave enough to take. Her name was Claire, 34, worked in HR, which, if you think about it, is the most Libra career on the planet. Professional conflict smoother, paid to make everyone feel heard without actually resolving anything. She'd been with Daniel for 4 years. By every external measure, it was a good relationship, no big fights, no drama. Friends said they were so compatible. Her mom loved him. His family adored her. At dinner parties, people would watch them and say, "You two are just so easy together." Easy, that word again. What nobody saw was the conversation Claire had with herself every single night before bed. The restaurant she'd wanted to go to for their anniversary, she'd suggested his favorite instead. The job offer in another city, she'd turned it down without telling him it was even an option, because bringing it up might create tension. The friendship with her college roommate he'd never warmed to. She saw her less, and less until one day she realized she hadn't called her in 8 months. Not because Daniel asked her to. He never asked. He didn't have to. Claire just adjusted, preemptively, constantly, like a system running automatic corrections before any error could appear. One Thursday evening, Daniel came home distracted, quiet. She asked if he was okay. He said, "Yeah, just tired." She made his favorite dinner, put on a show he liked. Didn't mention the thing that had been bothering her for 3 weeks. He fell asleep on the couch. She sat next to him in the dim light, and something in her just stopped. Not broke, didn't shatter, didn't overflow, stopped. She looked at him and felt nothing except this quiet, terrible clarity. She didn't know if she loved him. Didn't know if she'd ever known. Because she'd spent for years being the person he needed her to be. And somewhere, in all that adjusting, she'd lost the thread back to what she actually wanted. She didn't cry. Didn't wake him up. Didn't do anything dramatic. She just sat there in the silence she'd built, careful, conflict-free, perfect, and realized the silence wasn't peace. It was absence. She'd managed everything so well that there was nothing left. No friction. No edges. No her. Just a very comfortable arrangement where everyone was happy and she was invisible. She left him 6 weeks later. He was blindsided, said he never saw it coming, said they never even fought. That was the point, Daniel. That was exactly the point. Here's what's actually running underneath Libra. Venus rules them, the planet of beauty, connection, desire, worth. And that's not accidental, because everything Libra does comes back to one question: am I worth wanting? Not worth respecting, not worth admiring, worth wanting? The kind of wanting that stays, even when you're inconvenient, even when you're complicated, even when you take up space. And because they can't answer that question, because they've never tested it, they build an entire life designed to make it irrelevant. If I'm never inconvenient, nobody has to decide. If I'm never complicated, nobody has to choose. If I never take up space, I never have to find out how much space I'm actually allowed. The air element is supposed to be about thought, communication, exchange. Genuine exchange, your truth meeting mine, both of us changed by the contact. But Libra has turned air into performance, has turned communication into management, has turned exchange into a transaction where they give everyone what they want and collect approval like it's oxygen. And here's the sentence nobody wants to hear but needs to: you're not keeping the peace. You're keeping everyone comfortable enough that they never have to really choose you. That's the thing. Real peace, real intimacy requires someone knowing who you actually are and staying anyway. But Libra never shows them. So nobody's ever really chosen them. They've been tolerated, preferred, even, but not chosen, not for the full thing, and they know this. They feel it in every relationship that's easy and close and somehow completely hollow. The scale, Libra's symbol, isn't about balance. It's about the endless, exhausting search for the weight that makes everything feel safe. And they keep adding to one side and taking from the other, and the scale never settles, because the thing throwing it off isn't external, it's them. It's the weight of who they actually are, sitting on the floor, never put on either side, never allowed to tip anything. Stop performing balance. Start practicing presence. When someone asks your opinion, say the one you actually have, not the one that fits the room. Start small. What do you want for dinner? What did you think of that movie? Let the answer be real, even if it creates a half-second of friction. Stop preemptive accommodation. Notice when you're adjusting before anyone asked you to. That moment, that automatic edit, that's the wound. Catch it. Ask yourself what you're afraid will happen if you don't smooth this over. The answer is always the same. And it's always wrong. Find one relationship where you let yourself be difficult, not cruel, difficult. Have the opinion. Keep the plan, say the uncomfortable thing, watch them stay. Because they will. The ones worth keeping always will. And you need proof that your edges don't clear the room. Then, if you haven't already, therapy, not to become more balanced, to become more real, to figure out who you are when nobody needs anything from you. To answer the question you've been running from since childhood, you're allowed to take up space. Someone has to tell you. Let it be someone whose job it is to mean it. If you love a Libra, understand this. When they agree with everything, when they have no preferences, when they seem so easy and frictionless, they're not at peace. They're scared. Scared that the real them is too much, or not enough, or simply not worth the inconvenience of being wanted. Don't celebrate how easy they are. Push back gently. Ask what they actually want. Make them choose. Not to be difficult, but because every time you let them disappear, you confirm the fear. Tell them, I don't need you to be agreeable. I need you to be honest. Then sit with the discomfort when they first try. Because they'll be bad at it. Clunky, overcorrecting. It'll feel weird for both of you. That's not them failing. That's them, finally, for the first time in years, showing up. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort means something in here was true. And if you're a Libra watching this and you felt seen and exposed and slightly defensive, that's not an accident. That's recognition. Are you ready to stop being easy? Comment below. And if you want to understand the sign that causes the most damage to Libra specifically, next video is Scorpio. You're going to want to watch that one.